Cyber attacks against TV stations, food and fuel suppliers, hospitals, water systems.
These hacks have been happening for a long time.
Ransomware attacks.
After a ransomware attack.
For next year, are you optimistic about the global economy or pessimistic?
Pessimistic about the, look, you have a political, you have a monetary, you have a conflict type of environment.
1.5 degrees
global warming
in the next 5 years.
Pandemics are inherently political, financial, and so much broader.
So we will have internal problems in the markets. At the same time, the war intensifying. So that will lead us into, frankly, a depression.
Have you ever wondered what global challenges will shape our future? What critical issues could define the world by 2025? Buckle up, because the world is on a tipping point, and the problems we face are bigger than ever before. From water crises to the threat of superbugs, these issues are not just headlines. They're harbingers of a reality that could dramatically alter life as we know it. Join us as we uncover the harsh truths behind these looming global threats. One, water scarcity, the next global catastrophe. Water scarcity is not a problem for tomorrow, it's happening now. But by 2025, it's set to explode into a full-blown global catastrophe.
The United Nations is warning today of an approaching global water crisis.
According to the United Nations, a staggering 1.8 billion people will be living in areas with absolute water scarcity, while 2/3 of the global population will be in regions under water stress. Think about that. 2/3 of humanity struggling to find a basic necessity. Climate change is making things worse. Severe droughts in places like the Horn of Africa and devastating floods in South Asia are wrecking traditional water systems. In India, where millions rely on monsoon rains, groundwater is being depleted at an alarming rate. Some cities, like Chennai, have already experienced day zero, the moment when water taps run dry. Experts predict that 21 major cities in India will run out of groundwater by 2030, putting over 100 million people at immediate risk. The consequences are dire, from food shortages due to failing agriculture to wars over water rights. The scarcity could trigger conflicts we've never seen before. Nations like Israel have developed technologies like desalination and wastewater recycling, reusing an impressive 90% of their wastewater for agriculture. The rest of the world, however, is lagging behind. And if solutions aren't scaled up fast, we could see unprecedented global conflicts over who controls the world's water supply. 2. Economic inequality, the global divide, worsens. Economic inequality isn't just a buzzword, it's a ticking time bomb. As of 2023, the world's wealth is concentrated more than ever before. 1% of the global population controls nearly 50% of the world's wealth, according to the World Inequality Report. This gap is widening fast. By 2025, the pandemic's aftershocks and rapid automation will likely push even more people into poverty, while the ultra-rich continue to accumulate staggering fortunes. In the United States alone, the top 10 billionaires saw their wealth grow by over $540 billion during the pandemic, while millions of Americans struggle to survive. The situation is even more critical in developing countries like Brazil and India, where millions are living without adequate health care or education. The International Labour Organization, ILO, estimates that more than 200 million people globally will remain unemployed in 2025 if current trends continue, exacerbating inequality further. We are entering an era where automation will replace millions of jobs, leaving workers in the dust. Countries like Denmark and Sweden have managed to curb inequality through progressive taxation and robust social safety nets. But can the world catch up? Without massive reforms in tax policy, education, and healthcare, we could be on the verge of a societal collapse that will leave billions struggling for survival. 3. Climate change. The clock is ticking. The planet is warming faster than we can keep up. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, warns that by 2025,
1.5 degrees
Global warming.
in the next 5 years.
we could hit the dangerous threshold of a 1.5 degrees Celsius rise in global temperatures. If this happens, it could trigger catastrophic consequences, more frequent heat waves, devastating wildfires, and massive flooding that will displace millions.
Australia is on fire, and it's bigger than you think.
In 2023 alone, wildfires in Australia and the US burned over 10 million acres of land, causing billions in damages and displacing thousands. Sea levels are rising, and coastal cities from New York to Jakarta are on the front lines. Jakarta, Indonesia's capital, is sinking so fast that it may have to be entirely relocated by 2050. By 2025, an estimated 100 million people could be living in areas vulnerable to rising seas, according to the World Bank. But the effects of climate change aren't just environmental, they're deeply social and economic. The world's poorest countries are feeling the brunt of climate disasters. Regions in sub-Saharan Africa are facing unprecedented droughts, while rising sea levels are swallowing entire islands in the Pacific. The World Health Organization, WHO, predicts that climate change could result in an additional 250,000 deaths per year.
According to the World Health Organization, between 2030 and 2050, climate change is expected to cause approximately 250,000 additional deaths per year from malnutrition, malaria, diarrhea, heat stress, and so much more.
If governments don't accelerate their shift to renewable energy and fast, our future will be one of scarcity, disaster, and conflict. Renewable energy sources like solar and wind are scaling up, but we need global investments of $1.5 trillion annually by 2030 to meet climate goals. Time is running out. 4. Antimicrobial resistance, the silent pandemic. Forget everything you know about pandemics. There's a silent killer lurking behind the scenes. Antimicrobial resistance, AMR, is set to become the next great global health crisis. The World Health Organization warns that by 2050, AMR could cause 10 million deaths annually, surpassing cancer as the leading cause of death. And we're on track for disaster. Overuse of antibiotics in both human medicine and agriculture has created a situation where once treatable infections are now becoming lethal. Bacteria like MRSA are evolving to resist the drugs we have, and pharmaceutical companies are struggling to keep up with the pace. By 2025, the CDC projects that over 3 million antibiotic-resistant infections will occur each year in the United States alone, causing 50,000 deaths. Countries like the Netherlands have already implemented strict regulations to curb antibiotic use in livestock, leading to a dramatic reduction in resistant bacteria. But this isn't a problem that one country can solve alone. Without a global strategy for antibiotic stewardship, we could soon be living in a world where simple surgeries or even minor infections could become life-threatening once again. We're running out of time to act. 5. Cybersecurity, the battle for the digital world. As the world becomes more digitized, the threat of cybercrime has never been more alarming. By 2025, the cost of cybercrime is expected to reach a staggering $10.5 trillion annually, according to Cybersecurity Ventures. This isn't just about stolen credit card numbers. Cyber attacks are now targeting critical infrastructure. The Colonial Pipeline attack in 2021 was just the beginning, and the next could be even more devastating.
Ransomware attacks.
After a ransomware attack.
How concerned should we be?
Ransomware. It feels like it's everywhere these days. It's caused gas shortages. It's disrupted our meat supply.
Ransomware attacks, data breaches, and state-sponsored cyber warfare are becoming more sophisticated. Hackers are using artificial intelligence to exploit vulnerabilities faster than governments, and companies can defend against them. The World Economic Forum has labeled cyber attacks as one of the top 5 global risks for the future. Nations like Russia and China have already demonstrated their cyber capabilities, infiltrating everything from military networks to election systems. The scary part, 80% of global businesses are underprepared for these attacks. We're looking at a future where entire cities could be shut down by a single, well-executed cyber strike. Governments must prioritize cybersecurity at every level, and individuals must take action to protect their personal data. The future of our digital world is under threat, and the clock is ticking. These 5 global issues, water scarcity, economic inequality, climate change, antimicrobial resistance, and cybersecurity, are not distant threats. They're already affecting millions of lives and will shape the future in ways we cannot yet fully comprehend. We must act now before it's too late. Subscribe to Truth, Revealed, to stay intrigued, informed, and one step ahead.